Hello and welcome again to the Neon Fish Podcast. I am your host, author, musician, worship pastor, and Legend of Zelda fanatic. I'll explain that in a second. My name is Kevin Newsom. If you're a Legend of Zelda fan, it's a big day. We finally got the title for the new game, Tears of the Kingdom, I believe it is. There you go. So that's one of my pet projects, is playing Zelda. So all right. So today we've got another podcast for you. We are streaming this live. Rather than doing pre-recorded video. Last week we tried to live stream. We tried to use Twitch, and it was another disaster. I've tweaked some things. I'm on YouTube right now, and we are trying to stream it, and hopefully it's actually going to work this time. If nothing else, you'll get the audio again like last time with no video. I apologize for that. Hopefully I can dial this in, and we can get a better video live thing for you. So today I have with me as my guest musician Charlee Nguyen. If you've seen the promo little poster I put up, he's like, wait a second, that's not his last name. I'm going to let him explain that. He said it two different ways, and I swear he said it the exact same way. Charlee, thank you for being here. Thank you for joining me and taking a break from some of your classes to speak with me on this podcast and talk to us a little bit about your music and your story. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, Kevin. And just one quick question. Did you press record?
I did press record. Thank you for reminding me.
Great.
It's a work in progress. Guys, I've got to get the guests to help me figure this out. So,
yeah, Kevin. So we're doing good today. I'm just really glad to take a break from all of my classes. It's an exhausting thing to manage your business, school, family, and then your life all in the same time. So it gets really busy.
I'm glad to be here. And it ain't going to slow down. I hate to tell you. What are you studying?
So I'm studying philosophy right now and business advertising.
Philosophy and business advertising. And your future career goals with that, or are you just planning on being a musician for the rest of your life?
I really just plan on being a musician, but if I do get a job, then it'll be something along the lines of advertising or business.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully you'll have a very long and prosperous musical career. You're still really young as a musician, but you've seemed to be gaining some traction with your work. Let's just, before we start about talking about your music, let's talk a little bit about your story. So tell us about your story, your background, where you're from, your family, the ups and downs, all the things that you might want to share that might encourage and help somebody who's listening.
Ooh. Okay, so my story. I don't want to take like 2 hours to explain this. So
it's a 30-minute show.
Yeah. So pretty much just to sum up my story, I just come from just a normal neighborhood. I mean, we weren't super rich, we weren't like super poor, but we were kind of like, low income, in the middle type of feel, right? So I started off doing music pretty young. I was always involved in music since I was, if I remember correctly, don't quote me on this, but I believe it was since I was 8 years old. I picked up doing choir for church.
Okay.
And then I went off to play guitar for a little bit in elementary school, and then I went off to middle school. I played saxophone, or the alto sax, and then I went into bari sax, which is, if you guys don't know what the baritone saxophone is, it's basically like a life-size version of a saxophone. It's huge.
Yeah, it is, and it's probably about 30 pounds.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So imagine like doing marching band with that around your neck. It was tiresome.
Oh yeah.
But beautiful instrument. It makes such a beautiful sound, and I love it very much. But I had to part ways with that. And then in my high school years, I kind of lost myself. The teenage years, that's whenever you get kind of troublesome, right? Get a little rebellious. So I went through that phase, and then later on, in around junior year, I got reconnected with music again. But instead of playing music, I started creating music, and I became a composer and producer. And I pretty much spent from junior year up to senior year just learning every day as much as I can about how to produce good work, how to produce music, and all of that stuff. And I just kept the ball rolling and rolling and rolling, working with other labels and different companies and industries, and just sending my music out with them. And then I do whatever I can to put myself within the industry so I can, walk my own two legs within the music scene.
Sure.
And so far, that's pretty much how I got to where I am now. I mean, for any other musicians that are trying to start off, all I can say is it's never too late, and you're never behind. Because if I'm going to be honest with you, this is probably the realest thing I can tell you, that a lot of musicians are very lazy. Lazy as in they may have the art and they may have the skill, but not a lot of them have the discipline to keep going, and
True.
not a lot of them know business. So if you have some type of skills in music, right, and you are really business savvy, you're pretty much on a good trajectory to be a really good musician within
Right.
just the art field and the business field. Because it's at this point, if you want to make it in the scene, it's not just wearing the artist cap anymore. You have to wear the business cap as well, because you're playing two roles now.
Sure. Well, let's unpack that a little bit. What are some of the challenges as a Christian that you've had dealing with some of this music industry?
Ooh, well, struggles as a Christian, that's a pretty hard question, because the music industry kind of like sometimes directly opposes the Christian faith, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you look at the basic radio songs now, it's mainly revolves around sex, money, drugs, and, all of those worldly sinful things, right?
Right.
So you could dive into that, which that's a whole different can of worms. So I highly recommend not to dive into that, because it can get dark pretty quick and you'll lose yourself. Because I also went into that field a little early on my music career, and I learned the hard way that this ain't for me. So I took a different approach, and then I went with lo-fi, and it's more of a calming. It's more of like the best resolution if you want to do music as a Christian, because a lot of other types of music, it can lead you down a really bad path.
Okay. So, and how has your faith impacted the way you approach music? Other than switching to lo-fi, which you just said, what other ways has your faith impacted that?
Other than that, I mean, it hasn't really impacted it much. I don't hang around with the old group that I started off with, because I didn't start off with lo-fi. I started off with hip hop, and I was doing a lot of hip hop with a lot of rap artists, and their views of life is now a lot different than mine. And you are who you surround yourself with. So I didn't want to surround myself with them, even though I am a Christian, since I didn't want to be directly influenced by them.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to cut ties a lot. I had to cut a lot of ties with a lot of people that didn't really mold me into becoming a better person. Because if you really want to succeed in whatever you want to do, you have to stick with the right crowd that builds you as a person and that you can learn from. So pretty much the biggest lesson I learned as a Christian musician is you're going to have to cut a lot of ties. And if it doesn't agree with your morals, you're going to have to cut it regardless. Because you can't hinder yourself from growing, and you can't put yourself in that position of where you have to put your faith on the line of work, because your faith should always be superior to your work, if that makes sense.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, there's this conflict we see, especially in the music. I see it in music more than I do anywhere else, where there are these competing ideas, philosophies on how a Christian should approach music. So a Christian could approach it as this is their number one source of evangelism. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So all they do is preach the gospel through music. A Christian could approach it as just trying to produce the best art they can that has a positive message, and you could also just approach it as you are a musician in a general industry. And while you are there, you're going to represent your faith. So what are your thoughts on those different approaches, and how do you approach it?
Well, there's always going to be differences with the musicians, but I just consider myself really lucky because I landed within the lo-fi bubble of music, since everyone here is very friendly, they're very respectful of everything that they do. But I do understand your point of Christian musicians, they use their work to evangelize, which, I do at some point because, well, not at some point. Majority of the times I do that because I'm trying to share messages and stories that I've learned throughout my life and then spread as much love, faith, and cheer that I can. So I hope that answers your question. But there's going to be a lot of roadblocks regardless. And it feels like the industry is a bad place, but you can directly impact it in a good way as a Christian. And I started off with a couple Christian producers, and they kind of fell off since they went down the dark path that I was talking about. So stay strong to who you are and to your faith, and just keep moving forward.
So, have you gotten a lot of harsh criticism or opposition for the way you approach that? And that could be from the non-Christian community saying a Christian has no business being in this industry. Or it could be even from the Christian side of things saying you're not doing things Christian enough. Have you had any criticism?
No, honestly, I haven't had none of that really. Within the lo-fi scene, no, everyone's pretty much mellowed out and really out and just very peaceful and relaxed. That's why, it's honestly that's why I say I'm in a lucky position, and a lot of musicians would like to be in my position, since the audience is very friendly, they're very chilled out and relaxed. They're not I guess uptight about those things, if that makes sense, because the music itself is a very peaceful genre. The audience, whenever they listen to my work, it's mainly for relaxation, sleep, or just basic productivity, like doing homework and all that stuff.
Sure, absolutely.
Versus if you throw in a different genre, let's say, for example, hip hop, the usages of hip hop is, often in parties and clubs where there's drinking and sex and all that stuff involved. So the usages are very different. And that's why I liked being in the lo-fi scene, because it's more of the calm side of music.
Right. All right. So let's switch gears just a little bit and talk about your process, because anybody out there who is a musician there, and especially doing the kind of things that you're going to do, there's some specific questions that they're going to ask, and they want to know. Everybody wants to know, what DAW do you use?
This question. Okay. So I use FL Studios. A lot of people use Ableton.
I almost spit my coffee out. You use FL Studio? Not a lot of people like that. That's you're a little unique in that.
I use FL Studio. Yes. So I use. Okay. It's a very dumb reason why I use FL Studio. Okay.
Go ahead.
The reason why I use FL Studio is because Ableton. I tried Ableton, but it looks so ugly. Like the colors is so ugly for me, so I couldn't do it. It's like a blank white screen. I'm like, oh, this is too ugly for me. And FL Studios is more of like a darker theme, so it's nicer to look at and it's easier on the eyes.
Huh.
Yeah. So it's a very stupid reason of why, but that's just why I use it.
I think Ableton has a dark mode.
I tried the dark mode. It just doesn't sit right with me.
You don't like it? Okay. Well. Okay. Hey, everybody's got to have their reasons, right?
Yeah. Hey, the logo's a chili pepper, and I like chili peppers, so.
Well, my son uses Ableton. I use Cubase, and I use Cubase because it integrates with the notation. I'm a classically trained musician, so I work best with notes, writing it. So it integrates with their notation software really well. So that's the reason I went with Cubase. All right. So your process, how do you develop your song? What gives you inspired? What is production? What is live? Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay. So let's talk in the standpoint of production, right? It's pretty much all over the place whenever it comes to ideas. But the general rubric for whenever I make a song is this: find the reason why you're making that song. make a title out of that, right? And then whenever it goes into the actual production side, mess with the piano, find a good riff or chord progression, lay that out on the timeline, then build the ambience around the song, right? And then structure out the whole song in terms of the intro, verse 1, the break, the chorus, verse 2, and then the outro. And so basically I lay out the skeleton. Once I lay out the skeleton, then I start adding the melodies on the guitar or the piano or any other instrument. And then after that's done, I do little cool special effects to, make the song really pop sonically. And the very last thing, and this is like probably like the worst thing to say, because every single FL user I know is very good at percussion lines and drums. I'm terrible at that. And that's the last thing I do because I'm the worst.
Well, everybody's got a weakness, right?
That's my struggle.
Yeah. Well, if it makes you feel any better, the intro song. I don't know if you heard the intro song that I played right before we started. I did on Cubase, and I actually used a pre-made drum kit with its own fills and everything, and I didn't program any of it. I just triggered the fills and stuff because I can't do the drums either. I feel really bad.
Hey man, some people got it, some people don't, man. I mean, I mean, it's very time consuming because whenever you want to make a drum line, oftentimes I spend like 2 hours trying to find like the good kick or the good snare.
Right.
It's hard.
Right. Yes. I mean, that's a black hole just trying to find the perfect sound.
Exactly.
Spent hours. It's like trying to find a font. I can't tell you how long I've spent looking for the perfect font or the perfect sound. It's just, I guess musicians are never satisfied, right? There's always something better.
No. I mean, did this one time. I was getting feedback from my friends in the producer community. That the funniest thing I heard was my friend, I forget who it was. I'm sorry, but he said, "Dude, your snares sound like my grandma just sneezed." That was the most outlandish thing I've ever heard. But,
did you change the snare?
No, I kept the snare on the song out of spite.
Out of spite
for him saying.
Change the title of the song, Grandma Sneezes.
Grandma Sneezing. Hey, that song actually did really well, surprisingly. Surprising.
Excellent. So. All right, so tell us about the other question. What are you playing live? Are you playing anything live?
No, I'm not playing anything live. I honestly don't even have it in the schedule to play anything live because as of right now, besides my own music career and school and family stuff, I also run a label with a friend. I'm the project manager for a lo-fi label called Calm Beats. So I've got my hands tied with that.
Okay. All right.
But in the future, I do plan on doing live though, because a lot of my lo-fi friends within the community, the lo-fi community is huge in Europe. So I thought about going over there because there's a lot of cafes over there that do it. So I may fly over there in the future.
Okay. All right. And that was the answer to the question that I didn't mean to ask. But I was going to ask that next. So you beat me to that one. Do you play anything live in your music?
Oh, okay. Do I play anything live? Yeah. I mean, okay. So here's the weird thing about me, right? So I can play things live, right? But give me like 5 minutes, I'm not gonna know how to play it anymore. So I do strictly improv.
Sure.
If that makes sense.
No, it makes perfect sense.
I have a piano in my classroom, and then sometimes I fiddle around with it. And then someone asks me, "Hey, can you play this song?" And I'm like, "Oh, here we go again." So I can't play the piano, but I can make things sound good and improv, and it sounds good. But other than that, I can't even play Twinkle Twinkle on it.
So when you're recording your songs, you're recording live piano, right? Are you recording anything else live, or is the rest of it production? We lost your audio, by the way. So give us a second, audience, while Charlie sees if he can fix his audio.
No?
Oh, there it is. There it is. There it is.
There it is.
All right.
Okay. Awesome.
So,
Yeah.
What? Anything else live, or is the rest production?
Pretty much the rest is production. I keep the drums production, the bass lines production, and the effects production, but everything else is live.
Okay. So guitar's live.
Guitar's live, piano's live, and the rest is live.
Excellent, awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So to the music specifically, tell us about your latest projects, or whatever it is that you want people to go listen to right now. What inspired it, and what you hope people are going to get out of it?
Ooh, okay. So the latest project that I released is called Psalms of the Sea. And that just released via a label called Sleep Tales. It's live pretty much now. It released last Monday, which was great. The release has been great so far. I've been very blessed with all of the people in my audience that have listened so far, because it's racking up some numbers. So I always thank God for that. All the glory goes to him for getting me this far. But I mean, that story is a dark one, because the reason why I created that album was due to a breakup that I went through over the summer. So I wanted to pretty much talk about the emotions I felt and how our relationship started. It came in like a storm almost, and then it blew away so quickly. So those are the feelings that I wanted to create within that album, and a lot of people connected to it. So, I mean, if I put it into words, that album is pretty much like me describing my feelings of my first love, essentially.
Okay, and what do you want people to walk away from it, having heard that? What do you want people to learn? What is the takeaway value?
The takeaway is that through every breakup, it pretty much just makes you stronger. Take what you know went wrong in that relationship, figure out what you did wrong, and then build yourself to be a better person. The end of the relationship, in my opinion, was very healthy. We both, had our differences, and we respected that. And we just basically went our separate ways, knowing that we had differences that we couldn't compromise on. And it just ended really healthy. So I guess the takeaway is some relationships are bad, some relationships are good, but within both avenues, there is something to be learned from. So take whatever came out of that relationship and add it to your arsenal of making yourself a better person.
Excellent. All right. So what's next for Charlee Nguyen?
What is next? Who knows what's next? Who knows what God wants me to do? But I've been working on this EP coming along. I can't spoil the title yet, but all I know is, or all I will reveal, is that it's about God, pretty much. His essence and his glory. That's the only thing I can reveal. But that's going to take some time for me to work on, because I'm trying to mesh lo-fi and cinematic structures together into one.
Excellent. Sounds great. Well, thank you so much, Charlie. Do you have anything else you want to say to any of the listeners? Any words of encouragement that you haven't had a chance to share yet?
Okay, guys, for everyone that has been listening so far, thank you so much for listening, first of all. And whatever you're doing, whatever career path you want to go, make sure that what you're doing is right. And the only way to make sure that what you're doing feels remotely right is if you can honestly ask yourself this question: do I see myself doing this for the rest of my life? Am I ever going to get bored of this? Am I ever going to hate it? Sometimes whenever I'm in my workflow, I get really tired of things, but the next day I can always come back to it because it's something that I really love doing. Don't do things for the sake of money, and don't do things for the sake of just doing it. Find out what you really want to do with your life, and then go chase after it and go do it. It's never too late to do what you want. What can make you stand out above everyone else is if you stay disciplined and if you work hard towards it. And that's really it. I mean, I can't say I'm a very talented person, because talent is, sure, maybe like a couple percentages of my arsenal, but the only reason why I got this far was because God blessed me, and two, I just had the discipline to get as far as I am now. And other than that, guys, thank you for listening and tuning in. I hope you guys have a good rest of your day.
Thank you, Charlie. And thank you all for listening podcast or watching this on YouTube. Hopefully the video is going to be usable and you'll actually have a watchable video on YouTube. So thank you all for being here on the Neon Fish podcast. I've been your host, Kevin Newsom, and I hope you'll join us next time. Please subscribe, follow us on your favorite podcast app, and have a good day.